Now, here's your host, Dan Celia.
Good morning. Welcome back to Financial Issues. My name's Dan Celia. It's great to be here. Happy President's Day to all of you. I know there's many of you, I'm sure, that are off today. Well, not many of you. Some of you, at least if you're a federal worker. And I guess I know some of our local government offices are, in fact, working today, but I'm sure there are some local and state governments that are off. The markets are closed, so I won't have to be dealing with that. Of course, on Friday, or let's just say for the week, the markets, the Dow and the S&P had a great week. They ended up about 2.3%, so that's good news. The Dow was up 126.80. I've got some reasons and some people that have come out and are talking about what the markets might do for the week. It's interesting to see what George Soros did. Not that he's by any stretch of the imagination anyone that I hang my hat on, but it's interesting nevertheless to see, and I wonder how it's going to impact the markets. We have some a fair amount of economic data coming out starting tomorrow, and I'll talk about that. More importantly, some economic data that is going to be interesting as we think about the month ahead. So we'll take a look at that in a few minutes, and I'll go through all of that, not to mention some of the headlines, and we'll do that in a minute. So, but let me go to Sandy Rios. It's Monday morning, and Monday mornings we have Sandy Rios, AFA's Director of Government Affairs, and we sure appreciate Sandy. You know Sandy from Sandy Rios in the Morning, right here on AFR Talk, and sure appreciate Sandy being with us to talk a little bit about what's happening in Washington. Nobody knows better than Sandy, and we sure appreciate her coming on with us. Sandy, I know you're there. Good morning. I want to play a clip for you. It's a new ad for Mary Landrieu that just came out, and I want to play this clip. Go ahead, Devin.
Dear Mrs. Kelly, your family plan is no longer available under the Affordable Care Act.
Dear Ms. Davis, we can no longer offer you the same policy. Your doctor is no longer in the network due to the Affordable Care Act.
Due to the Affordable Care Act, your monthly premium has increased. No longer covered due to the Affordable Care Act.
Send Senator Landrieu a message. Obamacare is hurting Louisiana families.
For those of you watching on Biz TV and other TV outlets, great video that went along with that. Is that going to be the call, Sandy, from most when we look at some of the senatorial candidates, the Democrats that are in trouble? It's a great spot. If you haven't seen it, the video, it's powerful. It's a powerful spot.
Oh, absolutely, Dan. Good morning, by the way, and happy President's Day.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's no question that this is going to be that theme, same tone, and justifiably. You know, there are some political ads that are, trumped up. They're read by schmaltzy, dramatic readers, and they really they're not connected to truth. But this is connected to truth. We are hearing all of these tragic stories coming out every single day. And we're just beginning. This is just the beginning of it, Dan. I mean, we haven't actually heard yet, I don't think, of people dying as a result of not being able to get coverage, but you can bet that that's coming. And so for all of those senators who are running again in 2014 or congressmen, you can bet if they voted in favor of Obamacare, this is going to come back to haunt them, as well it should. If there's no other reason, if we can't think of any other reason to change the power basis, the power structure here in Washington, we could lay it at the results of having passed Obamacare that Christmas Eve, 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's just amazing how they pushed it through. It's shameful. And
it is.
At the same time, I think we need to also remember how grateful we should be for some people who kind of came out of this thanklessly. I think of Michelle Bachmann, whose mantra was to get rid of Obamacare, repeal it. She said it all the time. She talked about the dangers of it. And yet she was pretty thoroughly, it was almost as though no one believed her, like it was an overstatement. Mm-hmm. And then you take the Ted Cruz's, the things that he did to the filibuster that he did for 21 hours. This was the reason, Dan. This was the reason. People must remember. He was trying to stop the funding of Obamacare. And so...
I don't know if you saw the article in the National Journal from a liberal columnist, Ron Fontenay, and he writes that he's tired. He's tired of defending Obamacare. Can't do it anymore. It's wrong. And there was Kirsten Powers was on one of the, I forget which program she was on. Oh, I guess she was on with Chris Wallace yesterday. Kristen Powers saying the same thing. She said it's about time. It's about time we're seeing more of these, liberal progressive writers finally admitting that this thing is bad, that it's wrong. And she was saying, I don't know how anybody can continue to defend this president and this program of Obamacare. And another article in the Wall Street Journal this morning. I mean, it's just they're starting to come. I wouldn't say they're coming out of the woodwork, but it's getting harder and harder for liberals to defend this policy and this piece of legislation. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that's going to be going too as we head into 2014 elections.
Well, here's the thing, Dan. If things were equal, if both teams, and by teams, I'm not even talking about parties. I'm talking about people that want to really undermine and destroy the country, and people who want to save it. So if both teams are playing by the rules of fairness and honesty and open elections, and people who are authorized to vote, who have the right to vote, voting, and no other people, then the left would lose roundly in November. The problem is we are approaching this with the Attorney General now going into hyperdrive to go after states who are requiring voter ID, trying to get felons to vote, declaring it that they should be able to vote. We have this terrible set of rules that has been offered by the IRS to really undermine and destroy. I can't state this strongly enough. If these rules go through, groups like the American Family Association Action, FRC Action, Heritage Action, groups that provide voter guides, that do voter questionnaires, that do voter drives, will be put out of business. Americans for Prosperity, other organizations like that, because these rules will absolutely shut down the opposition to this president. And they're trying to get these rules through as quickly as they can, Dan. And there's great fight over this. And this issue is so important. If I haven't told you this, I need to. When the budget was passed, 3 weeks ago, the White House communicated to the House of Representatives that there were two non-negotiable items, two things over which they would not, under any circumstance, negotiate. Now, this is the omnibus bill. It funds every jot and tittle of government. It covers everything. But guess what the two non-negotiables were? They were the health conscience exemption in the Obamacare law. In other words, they will not relent on giving people health conscience. And the second one was these rules by the IRS that would apply to groups like the American Family Association and Heritage and all political opposition to the president who worked through voter guides and voter registration processes. Those are the two things they chose, Dan, to be non-negotiable, which should tell us how very powerfully damaging those rules will be if they go through. So I say all that to say, rightfully, the right should win in November's elections. But if the election process is corrupted in the way that they have in mind to do, you can't necessarily assume that.
No, and that's of question in everybody's mind out there is about the corruption through the election process. But as you point out these things, excuse me, as you point out these things, I can't help but think. I sent out something on my Facebook page or Twitter or something in reference to John Boehner's statement this weekend, saying that it is that the president, warning the president that he basically says, you better be careful because we're watching. Watching? Hello? Are you kidding? Watching. We know one thing about the Republican Party. They're very good at watching. They're very good at watching. They have that down pat. We don't need a reminder from John Boehner that they are watching. Watching is not the problem. The problem is, what are you doing about it? And I think this is going to have huge ramifications if we can, for the Republican Party, too, in 2014, as it should. And there still seems to be this lack of will in Washington from the GOP to actually stand firm on what is wrong by calling wrong, law-breaking. Now we're hearing that, well, yeah, he's breaking the law, but this is going to be a tough law to litigate. Well, the law is a law. If you're breaking the law, I'm trying to figure out how it's different than any law that maybe Richard Nixon broke or anybody else in power. But apparently we've differentiated between, breaking the law that's okay. I know the legal argument that it's hard to prove that it's caused anybody harm. Well, is my going 80 miles an hour caused anybody harm on I-95 when I get a ticket? Have I caused anybody harm? I put myself at risk for death and maybe someone else, and I guess you could argue, but was there any harm done? But I broke the law. I deserve to get a ticket.
Well, I think I think you might be referring to the fact that he just for the 24th time this past week altered the Obamacare law, which he does not have. He has no right to do that, and that's what the big discussion has been all week. And I heard Mike Lee say yesterday that they need to find someone who has standing to sue him. I think, Dan, of course, I'm not an attorney, so how can I explain this? But this is the impression that I get. Before they can sue the president, they want to make, under these circumstances, darn well sure they have a really good case and can make it stick. I think if Mike Lee and Ted Cruz could find an issue over which to sue this president, I don't have any doubt that they would probably do that, and they may. Just hold on to your seatbelt, because they just may. We forget, and we should stop to celebrate a little bit, that we really do have some champions in Congress, in both houses. We just don't have enough of them. And I have to tell you that conservatives in the House are really getting so restless against this leadership. And they are meeting, and they are getting restless. And you may see a breakout before 2014. I don't know.
Well, there had better be a breakout soon, I guess. And, I'm not... I'm thinking that the harder case to make is to the American people, how the abuse of power is just not quite abusive enough, and that's the argument that I see coming out of even some of the conservatives. You mentioned Mike Lee, even Mike Lee. As much as I love Mike Lee, coming out of Mike Lee on yesterday. I mean, explain to the American people exactly when does abuse of power become so abusive that something has to be done about it. Well, and it looks like we're looking for every excuse in the book not to put a fight up.
Well, I think in Lee's case, he was speaking of that. He was asked specifically by Chris Wallace about that 24th time to, rewrite the Obamacare rules. But I think on the larger question of lawlessness, I think that I don't know what he feels. I can't say. But I think there is a mood. There is a quarter of the Congress that's beginning to understand that there are going to have to be drastic actions. I think, Dan, I think the vast majority of Republicans serving in the House and the Senate have been so slow to understand what we're fighting.
Yeah.
Very hesitant to even, they think it's business as usual. It's partisan politics. It is not. It is not.
It is not. I agree. Thank you, Sandy. I appreciate you as always coming on the program with us, and I know my listeners do. Sandy Rios in the morning. Make sure you tune in. Sandy Rios is on the hour before this program. I hope you all listen. Thank you, Sandy. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.